I want to commend the legislation to the House, and I suppose it's based on a commitment that was given 3 or 4 years ago now, and certainly one that formed part of the last election campaign, a commitment that was given by several different political parties, that there should be a referendum on the future of Seanad Éireann. And I can't understand criticism of politicians for actually ensuring that what they committed that they would do if they got into office is actually put to the people. And I note from Deputy O'Keefe, who's just left now, he spoke about the Taoiseach having a rush of blood to the head. Well, his leader must have had a rush of blood to the feet from his head, because he fought that last election on the basis that a referendum should be held on the future of Seanad Éireann. And he has reversed engines on that particular matter. He also made the interesting point about the role of expertise and the appointment of experts to cabinet. And he was in cabinet for many, many years, and not very successful cabinet that could have done with a hell of a lot of expertise. It didn't appoint any particular experts. But I actually thought that Fianna Fáil fought the last election on the basis that they were going to establish a new system of government where people who weren't elected, who were experts, could be appointed. And now he's saying that, you know, it's being reversed and dropped, and that the Seanad route should be used. He didn't clarify the comments of Deputy Farrell, or the questions, I suppose, posed by Deputy Farrell in relation to the how the Seanad is currently composed. And I suppose his own famous ancestor was the main character behind the composition in terms of the panel structure for Seanad Éireann as it currently exists. And Deputy Farrell spoke about Catholic Church teaching and socialism. I thought it was actually corporatism, which might be more closely associated with National Socialism as opposed to socialism. But Deputy O'Keefe didn't use the opportunity to clarify what the thinking was at the time. Deputy Olivia Mitchell made a number of points that I want to agree with fully, and I suppose I have somewhat of a vested interest in that. I was a member of the other house for 9 years. And I can say with my hand on my heart that the current status quo that exists in terms of the operation of Seanad Éireann is not satisfactory. But I would equally say that the current position that operates in relation to Dáil Éireann, and the points that Deputy Mitchell made in relation to local government, that's not satisfactory either. I think the Minister for the Environment and Local Government has made a start on reforming local government, on ensuring that when people go to vote in the local elections next year, we won't have some parts of the country where people have 2 votes to elect 2 different local authorities, and other parts where people only have the 1 vote. I think that's a satisfactory change in the right direction. However, a situation which has emerged with the boundary changes, whereby some people might live 50 or 60 miles from their local councillors because electoral areas are so geographically huge, is not satisfactory local government either. We have a situation right on the doorstep of Dublin. Half of County Wicklow is in a 6-seat electoral area. You could, in theory at least, live 30 or 40 miles from your local council. Half of County Kerry nearly is in 1 electoral area. More than half of County Carlow is in an 8-seat electoral area. And I think something similar applies in County Sligo in terms of the boundary changes. So while I think the reduction in duplication between local authorities is to be much welcomed, the size of some of the local authority areas isn't conducive to proper functioning local democracy. But I think at least the Minister for the Environment and Local Government has made a positive step in the right direction by removing the duplication. I want to also join with other previous speakers who raised the issue of the electoral system for the Dáil, and what to me has been a glaring mistake by the Constitutional Convention, which is a body was established by the Oireachtas to look at reforms that are necessary. but the most recent discussions that they had centred on electoral reform, and they focused their results, as I understand it, on stating that constituencies should be larger. Now, I come from a constituency which is the second or third largest in the country. And I can tell you, it's one thing to be and I don't mean this disrespectfully, from a Dublin constituency or in the immediate hinterland of Dublin. Some constituencies that are geographically small and easier to get around. But for constituencies, and there's a former member of the House who used to have a great saying, and you knew him, Cathaoirleach, Deputy Sheehan in West Cork, who used to state, as a matter of fact, that by the time he reached Mitchelstown, he had gone more than halfway to Dublin, and he was still in County Cork. And I think the notion that Dáil constituency should be made bigger just doesn't make sense from a personal point of view of people who want to get involved in politics. I actually also think it doesn't make sense from an administrative point of view, when it's plainly obvious from my perspective that much of the effort that is put in by members of political parties who are members of this House can often be, well, have more of an eye perhaps on their potential Dáil running mate or their sitting colleague in the House, rather than on serving their constituents or serving the best interests of the country. And I, for one, have long advocated single-seat constituencies with a transferable vote, and I really regret the fact that the Constitutional Convention, I think, has made a dramatic mistake in not giving serious consideration to that and in not adopting that in terms of ensuring that we have a proper legislative body in this House. So while I welcome the fact that the people, and I don't see any problem with the people making a decision in a referendum on the future of Seanad, Éireann. Certainly, if the future is to be between what exists at present and not having a Seanad, then abolition is very much the only route that should be taken, in my opinion. And it is clear that over the past 60, 70 years, there have been 15, 16, however many reports that have been published on reform of the Seanad, and there's never been any political appetite from any side in terms of actually reforming the structure of the Seanad. One other very obvious, I suppose, weakness in the argument of those who oppose the referendum is the divergence of views that exists as to what the role of the Seanad should be, and indeed what its functions should be, and how it should be elected. There is no point in having a chamber that is just a mirror image of the Dáil, and many proposals that I've heard seem to focus on that, and that wouldn't serve, I believe, any particular purpose. How much time have I left?
You have 23 seconds.
Okay. Well, I'll finish up with this. I want to echo the comments of Deputy Olivia Mitchell in relation to some of the piecemeal approaches that are being taken to reform the political system. It hasn't really been an acknowledgement by the political system that this House, and both parts of this House, or if you exclude the President, have had a role in the economic difficulties, a significant role in the economic difficulties that the country has faced over the last 5 or 6 years. And I do think that a much more clear-cut reform of government across the board, including local government as well as the Oireachtas, needs to be considered. I'm also, this is the last sentence.
I want to now call on you to move the adjournment.
The last sentence is that I do think it is kind of remarkable that we're having a referendum on the abolition of the Seanad, but one of the reasons for not reducing the numbers of TDs more was that we couldn't have a referendum. And I think that's worth pointing out.
Thank you, Deputy.
But I do support it, and I move the amendment.
Thank you.